Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into one of the most powerful and honestly most debated texts in history, Psalm 91. It's been called a prayer, a poem, and even a kind of spiritual weapon. So what's it really all about?
Let's start right here, with a feeling that might be all too familiar. That sense of morning anxiety, right? The weight of the day just crashing down on you before you've even had a chance to really wake up. It's that exact feeling of being overwhelmed that has made an ancient text like this one feel more relevant than ever.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're gonna see how this ancient text speaks to our modern anxieties. Then we'll crack it open and dissect its powerful structure. We'll try to decode the mysterious dangers it talks about, tackle the tough questions it brings up, and finally uncover its wild history as a psalm for both soldiers and saints.
So, first up, how on earth did a poem that's maybe 3,000 years old become a modern tool for fighting that anxiety that hits us the second we open our eyes?
Well, a lot of modern devotional sources don't treat this like some passive poem. For them, it's an active battle strategy for your mind. The whole idea is to make a declaration of trust the very first thing you do to set the spiritual tone for the entire day.
At its heart, the practice is all about intentionally giving those first few fragile moments of the day over to this idea of divine protection. It's really about rooting yourself in a feeling of safety before the world gets a chance to tell you all the things you should be afraid of.
But to really get a handle on its power, we have to look past its modern use and go right inside the text itself. We're going to explore its unique structure and its incredibly vivid language.
Scholars actually classify this in a special way. It's not a lament, which is usually a cry for help when you're already in a bad spot. No, this is a psalm of trust. It's a bold statement of confidence you make before the trouble even starts.
So, who wrote it? Well, the original Hebrew text is actually anonymous. Jewish tradition often connects it all the way back to Moses. But the Septuagint, that's the ancient Greek translation of the scriptures, says it was King David. So we've got a couple of heavy hitters as possibilities.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The psalm isn't a monologue. Nope. Many scholars believe it's structured like a conversation, a dynamic back and forth between three different voices, which gives it this incredible, layered quality.
It's like a short play. It starts with one person making a personal declaration of faith. Then, a second voice, maybe a priest, jumps in and responds with this detailed assurance of God's protection. And then, for the grand finale, the voice of God himself speaks, making a direct promise. It's such a powerful progression.
And the language they use to talk about this safety, wow, it's just incredible. God isn't just a helper, he's an impenetrable fortress. He's the shadow that gives you cover from the scorching heat. And my favorite, this beautiful, tender image, he's like a mother bird, sheltering her young right under her wings.
Okay, so the psalm promises protection from a whole list of dangers. But what are these dangers? This is where the text gets really mysterious, and it opens up these two fascinating paths, the literal and the supernatural. The psalmist lays out four specific threats that have you covered 24/7. The terror by night, the arrow by day, the pestilence in darkness, and the destruction at noon. It's meant to be this all-encompassing list of every possible thing that could go wrong.
And that leads us to the million-dollar question. Was the author talking about real-world dangers of his time? War and disease? Or was he talking about something else?
So, you've got two powerful ways to read this. The literal interpretation sees real-world threats, surprise enemy attacks at night, arrows flying in battle, deadly plagues. Makes sense. But the supernatural reading, this is wild. It connects these dangers to demonic forces, with some ancient traditions even linking the terror by night to a specific Mesopotamian demon of dreams.
And this isn't some new idea, by the way. This supernatural view has deep historical roots. In some Jewish traditions, Psalm 91 was literally known as the Song of Evil Spirits. It was thought of as a powerful tool to fight the demonic world, used in exorcisms and even carved onto amulets for protection. And the scale of this promised protection is just staggering. The psalmist says that even if 1,000 people fall right next to you and 10,000, that's an entire army at your right hand, this danger, whether it's literal or supernatural, will not touch you. This absolute, seemingly unbreakable promise of total physical safety. Well, it leads us right into the most difficult and I think most profound challenge of Psalm 91, right?
After building up this incredible image of an unbreakable shield, we have to confront the obvious and often painful question that has echoed through the centuries for anyone who's read these words and then faced tragedy.
And this is not just us asking this. Biblical commentators have wrestled with this tension for ages. Scholars like Craig Broyles point out that while some find these promises incredibly comforting, a lot of other people find them, well, completely unrealistic.
But if you look really close, the text itself might give us a clue. Verse 15 suggests the promise isn't a life completely from trouble, it's about God's presence in trouble and the promise to eventually deliver you out of it.
One of the main theological interpretations hangs on this idea of divine retribution. That's basically the punishment that comes from God as a consequence for wickedness.
So, this completely reframes the promise. Maybe the protection isn't some magic bubble that stops you from getting sick or into a car accident. Maybe the protection is from that specific judgment, a guarantee of ultimate spiritual and eternal salvation, even when physical hardship happens.
So, with all this complexity, this challenging text has left a truly remarkable footprint on history. It's become a source of both huge comfort and huge controversy for thousands of years.
Because of those powerful promises of protection, especially in the face of just overwhelming danger, it became famously known, particularly in the last century, as the Soldier's Psalm. The ways it's been used are just astonishingly varied. I mean, it shows up in ancient magical texts, in huge moments in the New Testament, in daily prayers, Jewish burial ceremonies, and modern warfare. Its journey is just incredible, right? The Dead Sea Scrolls community used it as an anti-demon chant. Satan himself quotes it while tempting Jesus in the desert. It's a key part of Jewish burial rituals and Christian evening prayer. And yeah, it's even been printed on camouflage bandanas for American soldiers.
And that one specific verse, the one about trampling on lions and snakes, it directly inspired a really famous piece of early Christian art, the image of Christ treading on the beasts, which became this powerful symbol of Christ's total victory over all evil.
So, what is Psalm 91 in the end? Is it a supernatural shield? Is it a piece of poetic comfort? Or is it a psychological anchor to ground us when we're afraid? You know, after 3,000 years, maybe its true power is that it can be all of those things at once.